All right, welcome everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing Medicaid and some potential major changes to this program that would impact the low income all across the country. I have all the details and exactly what you need to know right here in the video. Let's get into it and discuss what's going on. First off, thank you so much for liking and sharing this video with those buttons right down below the video. Thank you, I really appreciate it. Also, if you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Again, with the big subscribe button right down below the video. Thank you, I really appreciate your support. Got to stick together right now. It is such a weird time out there. Thank you. Let's get into it and talk about it. All right, so like I said, Medicaid. Now, I do want to clarify really quickly here before we get into it any further. Everything I'm talking about here in this video pertains to Medicaid, not to be mistaken with Medicare. These programs are very similar, but at the same time, they're also very different, and the beneficiaries that receive benefits and coverage from Medicaid and Medicare are also very different, okay? So I just want to make that very clear. We're talking about Medicaid, not Medicare. We can talk about Medicare in a separate video, okay? Which, by the way, as of right now, there's about 65 to 66 million people enrolled in Medicare, and there's about 72 million people enrolled in Medicaid. It's a lot of people that we're talking about here, right? Okay. So anyway, we're talking about the 72 million people enrolled in Medicaid. Now, I want to throw an idea out there that is floating around that I've seen in the headlines, and they've tried to implement this across some of the states across the entire country. I just want to bring this to your attention, okay? But again, I want to clarify this as well. This has not been implemented yet, but it is something that has been floated, an idea that is floating around out there that I just want to bring to your attention so you can see what may be changing and how it would impact the low income and Medicaid as a whole. Remember, a lot of these programs that are out there, right, like SNAP benefits, I mean, the list goes on and on. You hear about me talk about them all the time. But a lot of these programs, Medicaid is also one of them, that is federally funded, as in the federal government funds them, but the state administers the program. So some of the different aspects of the program are a little bit different across the states. Same thing with Medicaid and SNAP benefits and all things like this, okay? Which is why it can be a little bit difficult because each state has its own set of rules. And again, this kind of complicates it because they've all got their own rules and things like that. But Medicaid is kind of similar across the board, but here's what I want to share with you. I've seen it out there a few times, and again, there's potentially, again, I just want to make this very clear and emphasize, potentially this idea to implement work requirements to be eligible for Medicaid. Now, here's the thing. This would be just for those people who are able-bodied adults without dependents, ABAWD, right? Now, you've probably heard me say that before in other videos because I have. I've talked about it as it pertains to SNAP benefits as well, right? Maybe you've heard me talk about SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, food stamps. Sometimes they're called EBT, but you know the difference there, right? Again, by the way, very soon here, they're also adjusting that as well, the ABAWD age limit on that. But the whole idea behind this would be potentially implementing work requirements. In other words, somebody who is an ABAWD, an able-bodied adult without dependents, who's on Medicaid to potentially fulfill work requirements on a monthly basis to be covered by Medicaid, okay? I know, okay? Please, I want to say this much. Don't get too jacked up yet. Please don't get worried about this yet, okay? This is an idea that has been floated. In fact, there's one state out there right now. There's only one state that has had this enacted, okay? The state of Georgia. This is the only state out there right now that actually has this enacted. It started in 2022, but there's also talk to potentially implement this on a federal level, okay? So like across the entire country. This would take some work to get implemented, okay? It's going to take some time if they were to do it, but I'm just saying, just be aware that this could potentially be a thing. Now, let me define really quickly work requirement, okay? Because a lot of times people are like, wait, do I have to go get a job? Is that what you're saying? I got to go work 40 hours a week in order to be eligible for Medicaid? No, okay? No, there's a lot of different aspects around this. Let me explain really quickly. So in the state of Georgia, again, I'm just using Georgia as an example here because they are the only state that has these work requirements, okay? But in that state, and I would imagine on a federal level, it would be something very similar to this if they were to do this on the federal level, okay? I'm just saying. I'm guessing they would probably take a play out of the playbook out of Georgia. It'd probably be something very similar to this. But basically, they need to show 80 hours of basically work or work equivalent per month. So that's 20 hours per week, okay? So it could be work, it could be volunteering, it could be vocational, like training, okay, like job training, stuff like that. It could be educational, it could be schooling, things like that, okay? So there's a lot of different things that would fulfill this 80 hours per month, okay? 20 hours per week is what that averages out to be. But remember, I want to point this out again. I said this earlier, and I'm going to say it again really quickly. This would just be for those people who are considered ABAWD, again, able-bodied adults without dependents. Now, this is also a very confusing part as well, right? Okay, as it pertains to these SNAP benefits, I've explained the ABAWD definition before. That can be very confusing. I have dedicated videos here on the channel talking about it, but basically it comes down to this. They identify an age range in which they would identify as the ABAWD people, okay? If somebody is within the age range and their income is obviously within the thresholds that make them eligible for Medicaid, and they are able-bodied and they do not have minor dependents, okay? That's kind of like shakes out a lot of people. Then they would potentially be eligible for this. So the big question I get all the time when it comes down to SNAP benefits is, I'm 65 or, I'm 45 and I have a disability. Do I have to fulfill this? The answer would be, when it comes down to those benefits, no. Reason being is the age range is, somebody who's 65 would be above the age range required, and somebody who's 45 with a disability is technically not able-bodied. You get that? Again, so I can make a dedicated video about that if you'd like me to, but there's a lot of moving parts here, but it's something I've seen showing up a number of times recently, and I thought, you know what? I want to tell you about this really quickly. It has not, again, I want to emphasize this, it has not been implemented on the federal level yet across the entire country, but they've talked about it, okay? It's an idea that's been floated and something I certainly want you to be aware of, just to kind of keep on your radar, keep it out there just in case, if this were to come into fruition, okay? If it does, I'm going to tell you this much, it's going to take a long time to implement. But it could happen. It could easily happen because just changes. I mean, these programs are forever changing. You know this, right? I mean, you know this as well as I do. You watch the videos here on the channel. I bring you all the details about it. These programs are constantly changing and updating and things like this. Now, one of the main reasons that they possibly are talking about this is the reason because back in 2020, it started in January 2020 through, what was it? April? I think it was April of 2023. So, well over a year and a half ago now or so. There was the public health emergency declaration in place. Do you remember me talking about that, right? So they had this thing in place where basically nobody could be disenrolled or removed from Medicaid. Do you remember this? I talked about it many, many times over that, little over 3-year period of time. I talked about it a lot during that time. But basically people could enroll in Medicaid and they could not be removed. They basically couldn't be denied Medicaid. So the rolls went from about 72 million people enrolled in Medicaid to almost 100 million people. It was nuts. They added Yeah, it was like 25 million people. It was something like that. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head. It was something like 30 million. 30 million people. We were just under 100 million people enrolled in Medicaid. It was nuts, right? Well, then in April of 2023, they started this thing which they call the Medicaid Unwinding, the Medicaid Purge, whatever you want to call it. I've seen different names out there, but I've talked about that a little bit lately as well, which is where they started removing people. Remember that? I came back over the last, year and a half or so. Every, couple months I've come out with a video and be like, hey, they've removed 10 million. Now they've removed 14 million. Now they've removed 17 million. Now they've removed 22 million people, right? So they keep removing all these people. And this is still going on. This Medicaid purge or Medicaid unwinding, unfortunately, is still happening. In other words, people are still losing Medicaid benefits or Medicaid coverages right now because of this unwinding, okay? So what a mess. I mean, seriously, what a mess. But because of that whole reason, that's why this whole idea of potentially implementing a work requirement, potentially at some point, into Medicaid, that's the whole reasoning behind this, okay? Does that kind of make sense? Does that kind of explain the situation here, okay? Again, please don't get worried about it. Don't get nervous. You're not going to be like losing your Medicaid tomorrow or something. You're not going to be required to go out and get a job. I'm not saying that, okay? That is not the requirement right now. But anytime I see stuff like this, I want to bring it to you so you can see what potentially may be coming. If it doesn't come, then awesome, okay? That's great. That's good news in this situation. But sometimes we see things out on the horizon that are like, hey, they're talking about this. This would actually be a very good thing if they did it, so let's keep watching it, right? So whether good or bad, beneficial or not, Whatever it happens to be, I like to bring it to you so you have an idea of what is going on and how you may be impacted, whether it's with your fixed income benefit, your SNAP benefits, your Medicaid, your Medicare, your Social Security, SSDI, SSI, survivor, spousal, VA, RRB, low income benefits. The list goes on and on. I like to bring it to you, right? So anyway, does that help a little bit? So anyway, as always, please leave your comments, your questions, your feedback down below. Subscribe down below. Like the video. Share the video. Again, all of which down below. Otherwise, check out the other videos here on the channel, the thousands in the video library. The ones I've hand-selected for you down below in the description at the top of the comment section. And right now, popping up your screen, you'll see some videos there as well. Thank you. Really appreciate your support. Please check out one of those other videos now. Check out the videos in the video library. And thanks for your support. Really appreciate it. Such a weird time out there. I'm here for you in any way that I can be. Enjoy your day. Hope this helps. I'll keep you posted. I'm watching everything every single day, and so I want to do what I can to keep you posted on this. All right, enjoy, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you.